There are two very different ways people can approach Norse paganism today. There's the racist version, where people take Norse gods, symbols, and stories and turn them into ideas about race, blood, ancestry, and who supposedly belong. And then there's the inclusive way. So if you're here for the racist version, you might as well just click off the video now. This isn't the place for that. You don't have to be white to practice Norse paganism. You don't have to be Scandinavian, and you don't have to have Viking ancestry. You need curiosity, respect, and a willingness to learn. You're going to hear several words during this video: Norse paganism, heathenry, Asatru, foreign seed. These words are used differently depending on who you are and who you're talking to. Asatru is commonly used in Scandinavia for modern practice centered around a person's relationship with the old god. In Iceland, the Asatru is a religious organization that supports that practice. In America, you'll also find groups and churches that use the word Asatru, but no single organization gets to decide what Norse paganism or heathenry means for everyone. Personally, I use the word heathen the most because it has linguistic connection to the old tradition. The Old Norse word heathen was used for someone who followed the old religion rather than Christianity during the time of the conversion. So to me, heathen has the closest linguistic tie to the people and traditions that I'm replicating. And remember, there wasn't some giant age Viking church with one rule book sitting in a Scandinavian basement waiting for us to find it. There were different people, different places, different customs, and different ways of understanding the gods, ancestors, and the land that's here. So in this video, we're going to strip away the internet nonsense and start with the basics. What is Norse paganism? Where did it come from? Who are the gods? And what does a heathen practice actually look like? And how you can begin walking this path without falling down one of the internet's very strangest and weirdest rabbit holes. Because this is how to heathen. Nature's minefield. So where did Norse paganism actually come from? Well, the short answer is Northern Europe, long before Christianity became the dominant religion in Scandinavia. What we call Norse paganism today is based on the religious traditions of people who lived across places like Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Iceland, and other parts of Northern Europe. These people worshipped gods, honored their ancestors, gave offerings, celebrated seasons, and had their own local customs. And that's important because there wasn't one single Norse religion with one church, one book, and one guy in charge. Your religious practice could look different depending on where you lived, your family, your community, and which gods were important to you. The problem is the people who practiced these traditions didn't leave us a giant instruction manual called Norse Paganism for Dummies. A lot of what we know comes from archaeology, runestones, poetry, the Poetic Edda, the Prose Edda, and the Icelandic sagas. And some of these sources were written down after Christianity had already arrived in Europe, so we have to be careful about treating every story as a perfect recording of what people believed 1,000 years ago. We're piecing together a much older religious world from the evidence that survived. And that's actually part of what makes studying heathenry so interesting. We're not just being handed a finished textbook. We're digging through history, asking questions, and trying to understand how our ancestors saw the world. And now we're going to talk about some of the figures that lived at the center of this world, the gods. So, who exactly are we talking about when we talk about the Norse gods? You've probably heard of Odin, Thor, Loki, and maybe a few others. But there are a lot more god and goddesses in the old stories, and they aren't all just characters with one job. They have personalities, strengths, weaknesses, families, rivalries, and some seriously complicated relationships. Odin is connecting with wisdom, knowledge, poetry, magic, and the dead. Thor is known for his strength, protection, and his role as a defender of gods and people. Freyja is connected with love, fertility, magic, war, and death, while Freyja is connected with fertility, prosperity, peace, and good harvest. Then you've got Tyr, associated with courage and law, Frigg, who was connected with family and fate, and Loki, who seems to have a special talent for turning a bad situation into a much, much worse one. And that's just scratching the surface. And this is very important for beginners to understand. Not every heathen understands the gods in exactly the same way. Some people believe the gods are literal, spiritual, physical, anthropomorphic beings. Some see them as forces of nature or manifestations of those forces. Some believe they may have been ancient extraterrestrial beings, or that the stories preserve memories of older civilizations, heroes, kings, or leaders who were later remembered as gods. Others understand the gods through ancestors, spirits, symbolism, or other ideas. There isn't one modern answer that everyone has to accept. For me, that's part of the reason this path is so fascinating. The old stories give us clues, but they also leave us with questions. And whether you see Odin as a god, a force of nature, an ancient being, or something else entirely, the important thing is to approach these ideas with curiosity and be honest about the difference between what we know, what we believe, and what we believe we know, and what we're still trying to figure out. And remember, you're not trying to collect gods like they're some kind of Pokemon. You're trying to understand the spiritual world that you're choosing to walk in. While we're talking about building your heathen practice, let me take a quick second to shamelessly sell some of my stuff. Check out my book, The Modern Hávamál, my handmade Mjolnir burned cutting boards, and the other heathen gear that's in my shop. And let's be honest, you're not truly a Norse pagan until you own a Mjolnir cutting board. I'm only fucking kidding. But seriously, I could really use the sales, and every purchase helps to support How to Heathen and lets me keep making these videos. So if you want something cool for your kitchen, something to read, or just want to support the channel, check out the links down in the description. Now back to the pit. So if you're just starting out, one of the best places to begin is with the old stories and the surviving historical sources. We have the poetic Edda, the prose Edda, the Icelandic sagas, runestones, archaeology, burial sites, artwork, and even accounts written by people who weren't from the region themselves. One of the most fascinating examples comes from a Muslim traveler named Ahmad ibn Fadlan, who traveled from Baghdad in the 10th century and encountered a group of people he called the Rus. He actually witnessed the funeral of a high-ranking man and wrote down what he saw. His account gives us one of the best descriptions of how a Norse-related funeral ritual could be structured. The ship was brought onto land, a special structure was built on it, the man was dressed and placed inside, food, drink, weapons, animals, and other belongings were prepared. And the ceremony continued through a series of very specific actions before the ship and its contents were burned. It's a remarkable look at a ritual because we're not getting it from a later fantasy story. We're getting it from someone who says, I was there, this is what I saw, and this is how it went down. But we have to be careful with that too. Ibn Fadlan was describing a specific Rus community in a specific place and time, not giving us the official rule book for all of Norse paganism. His account also shows us that ritual wasn't necessarily a simple prayer followed by an offering. It could have a structure, a ritual leader, special objects, sacred actions, music, offerings, death rites, and ideas about what happens after the passing. That's priceless information because when we look at the Eddas and the archaeology together, we can start asking better questions about how people may have practiced their religion. We don't have to pretend we know every detail, and we don't have to throw away the evidence just because we don't have all the answers. We take what survived, compare the sources, and build our understanding from there. And that's really what studying heathenry is about, learning from the past without pretending the past left us a perfect construction manual. So now that we have an idea of what some historical rituals may have looked like, let's talk about what that can look like for you today. You don't need a giant ceremony, a fancy altar, or a bunch of expensive Viking stuff to practice heathenry. One of the simplest things you can do is make an offering. That could be food, water, flowers, drink, or something from nature. You can give an offering to a god, an ancestor, a land spirit, or another being you have a relationship with. The important part isn't how much money you spend. It's the meaning behind what you're giving and the relationship that you're trying to build. You can also create a small place for your practice. Maybe that's an altar with a candle, a bowl for offerings, a picture or statue, a stone you found outside, or something that connects you to your ancestors. You can speak a prayer, say what you're thankful for, ask for guidance, or simply sit quietly and listen. There isn't one magical formula that makes a ritual work. The old traditions were varied, and our modern practice is going to be different too. Start simple, learn as you go, and remember, your practice doesn't have to look impressive on Instagram to mean something. Sometimes heathenry can be as simple as pouring a cup of water, giving thanks, and taking a moment to remember that you're part of something way, way bigger than yourself. Heathenry isn't just about what you do at your altar. It's about how you live your life when nobody is watching. The old stories put a lot of weight on things like hospitality, keeping your word, courage, wisdom, reciprocity, respect for nature, honoring your ancestors, and being part of a community. That doesn't mean you have to be some perfect Viking warrior. It means asking yourself how these ideas can actually make you a better person today. If you say you're going to try to do something, try to do it. If someone comes into your home, treat them with respect. And if you make a mistake, own it. And if you have some knowledge that can help someone else, share it. Heathenry becomes much more meaningful in practice when it leaves the altar and starts showing up in your everyday life. That's also where I bring in my own system. I call it the 5 Vardas: the Hamir, your body; Huger, your mind; Filga, your connection to the divine; Haminga, your luck and fortune; and Filag, your community. These aren't a checklist you have to complete before you're allowed to call yourself a heathen. They're a way about thinking about the different parts of your life and how they connect. Take care of your body, keep learning, build your relationship with the gods and the spiritual world. Work with the luck and the opportunities you have, and don't try to walk the entire path alone. You don't become heathen just because you bought a hammer or memorized the names of the gods. You become heathen through the way you learn, the way you practice, and the way you live. That's when this becomes more than something you just believe. It becomes something you do. Now, let's clear up a few things, because the internet has done a pretty good job of making Norse paganism even more confusing. You don't have to dress like a Viking, grow a giant beard, learn Old Norse, or a Mjolnir, or pretend like you just stepped out of the Viking age. You don't have to be white, you don't have to be Scandinavian, and no, Norse paganism is not an ethno-religion that requires you to have a certain bloodline before you're allowed to practice. You may hear people use the term ethno-religion to argue that heathenry belongs only to a particular ethnic group, but that's not how it's practiced, and it's not a requirement for practicing Norse paganism today. Being a heathen isn't about cosplay, ancestry tests, or proving that you're somehow more authentic than somebody else. It's about your relationship with the gods, the traditions you're learning from, and the way you choose to practice. And we also need to talk about something much more serious: racism. There are openly racist groups that use Norse symbols and traditions to promote white supremacy. There are also groups that'll tell you that they aren't racist while still building their practice around the racist ideas about blood, ancestry, racial purity, or who's supposed to have a right to these traditions. Saying we're not racist doesn't automatically make a belief system not racist. You have to look at the ideas underneath it. The Old Norse world was made up of different people who interacted, traded, traveled, fought, married, and moved across tremendous distances. Turning that complicated history into a modern racial purity system is not the same thing as studying the past. Norse paganism does not belong to one race. You don't need a particular skin color, DNA test, or family tree to begin exploring the spiritual path. If somebody tells you that your blood determines whether you can connect with the gods, that's a pretty good sign that you should find a different fucking longhouse. So, if you made it this far, you might be wondering, okay, but how do I actually start? Well, start small. You don't need to know every god, read every saga, or memorize every rune before you're allowed to call yourself heathen. Start by learning the stories. Read the Poetic Edda, explore the sagas, learn about the gods, and look at archaeology. Then start building a simple practice. You might begin with a small altar, a prayer and offering, spending time in nature, or honoring your ancestors. You literally can start this path with like 5 minutes a day. You don't need a ceremony that looks like it belongs in a Hollywood movie. You need something meaningful that you can actually maintain. As you learn, keep asking questions. Find people who are willing to talk about their sources instead of simply telling you, this is how the Vikings did it. Learn to separate historical evidence from modern reconstruction and personal belief. And find a community that makes you feel welcome without demanding that you surrender your ability to think for yourself. You don't have to rush this. Your practice can grow as you grow. Maybe you start with a cup of water and a simple prayer. Maybe 6 months later, you're reading the Eddas, learning about rituals, studying the runes, or building relationships with the gods and your ancestors. There is no finish line. You're beginning a path. You're not taking a test. And that brings us to the most important part of being a heathen. Think for yourself. Learn the story, study the history, question the sources. If somebody tells you that something is an ancient Norse tradition, ask them where they got that information. And remember, not everything you find online is ancient. Noble virtues, for example, are a modern creation. They aren't some ancient Viking code handed down from Odin. There's nothing wrong with creating modern values for your own practice, but we should be honest about what comes from the historical record and what was created much later. The same goes for claims about race, blood, and who supposedly has the right to practice. Don't just listen to what someone calls themselves. Look at the ideas that they're actually practicing. Norse paganism doesn't require you to stop thinking. It asks you to keep learning. So read the books, explore the stories, look at the archaeology, talk to other heathens, whether in person or online. Spend time in nature and build your practice and figure out what this path means to you. And if this video helped you understand Norse paganism a little better, hit that like button, subscribe to How to Heathen, and share this with somebody who's just starting their own journey. And if you're already heathen, tell me in the comments, what is one thing you wish somebody had told you when you were a beginner? And if you're looking to connect with a community of like-minded heathens or looking for any kind of guidance on this path, join the Discord server. The link is in the description. There are some amazing people in there, and they will do anything they can to help you learn. And also make sure to check out every Sunday, because I'm going through the Hávamál 5 stanzas at a time, and I'm on episode 7 right now. We're going to be doing episode 8 on Sunday. So until next time, stay curious, stay learning, stay focused on your fucking goals, and most importantly, stay fucking savage.
This is how